In this video, I'm going to talk to you about how to sync your life with your menstrual cycle. This is about learning the different phases of the cycle and how you can use them to your advantage, so you know when to rest and when to kind of go head first into working and socializing, and you know that you're not going to feel like crap afterwards. It's a pretty amazing new lens to look through and can create some monumental shifts in quality of life by only just changing relatively small things and just tweaking by being aware of what stage we're in and planning our morning routines, our movement, our food, and even things like our sex life or fun activities like socializing and playing music or like any hobbies. When we understand the different phases of the cycle and how they affect us, it means that we can be really compassionate to ourselves, and it means that we can implement changes that are going to be sustainable over the long run. If you're new here, welcome to Ambrosie's Table. I'm Lucia and I teach traditional kitchen wisdom, so how to eat a nutrient-dense, whole food diet, make it taste delicious, how to be consistent, and how to eat for your menstrual cycle. Okay, so nature is cyclical, right? We've got the seasons throughout the year, we've got like the moon, we've also got the sun, we've got the tides, we've got all of these things are constantly changing, and yet the man-made world is very linear and rigid, and we're kind of expected to be the same every day. So this clearly doesn't work for most women or people who have cycles. So we are expected to be the same every day and we're not. So we are therefore a failure if we're not being able to operate at that go, 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 do state. Our culture doesn't actually value rest, so it's quite an awesome radical thing to take into account the times when we're going to need rest the most and actually schedule them and actually practice resting. Looking through the cycle lens is really helpful because we know when we can actually predict when we're going to need to rest the most and when we're not going to feel like doing high intensity exercise or a full-on yoga class. Many women feel like they can't be consistent and they feel a little bit like a failure when they're trying to implement diet changes or lifestyle changes because they're not able to stick to it. But when we look through this lens, we see, oh, we're not irrational or erratic or unpredictable. Actually, when we zoom out and we look at it on a month-to-month perspective, we see actually it is very predictable, and better yet, we can use these predictions to our advantage. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a couple of different things that we can actually sync with our menstrual cycle. So these are things like morning and night routine. So I call them bookends because it's kind of like all of the stuff that you do in your day is like the bookshelf, and then the bookends are things that hold the books in place. So it's kind of like the start and the end of your day. So it doesn't matter if you've had a stressful day, if you've got that consistency with your morning and night routine, it really just sets you up for success and makes you feel grounded and rested and makes you feel good. So I'm going to talk about life admin, so kind of like study or work or just all of the things that you have to do, adulting. I'm also going to talk about top me up, so that's things like movement or playing music or socializing, all the fun stuff. Of course, meal prep. I'm just going to give a brief outline of the phases of the menstrual cycle, and then I'm going to dive deeper into kind of some of that more of that behavior change side of things and how we can implement those different changes and plug them into the menstrual cycle lens and optimize those behavior changes. First of all, we've got winter. Obviously that's going to be your period, so when you're bleeding, so from day 1 to 7 typically if you've got a 28-day cycle. So you can think of winter kind of like germinating underground like a seed, or it's kind of like dark and you're sort of withdrawn into yourself. There's not really much going on and it's really about being in a restorative place. So it'll be harder to articulate, you'll be feeling more sensitive, you'll also be feeling potentially more intuitive and creative as well. It's just nice to practice saying no to things and really clear your schedule and just really prioritize rest. And next phase is going to be spring, so you're kind of poking your head out of your period cave. You haven't quite got your energy back, but you are feeling much more capable, and for me this is sort of when I feel like, okay, I can start to plan work and I sort of have that natural motivation to start getting back into the world and start socializing again or moving my body more. Lucy Peach calls it the do phase. You'll be feeling motivated maybe to write or to create. Specifically to do with cooking, it is a fantastic time to get your cookbooks out and go through them. I like to put little sticky notes in my cookbooks and sort of go through and get inspired, but you might not necessarily feel like you want to actually cook all of those things yet, but you're just starting to look ahead and just get a little bit of excitement to even think about it, right? So summer, Lucy Peach calls this the give phase. So it is really that time when we can go all in and, you know, say yes to hosting the dinner party at our place, or say yes to having visitors. Of course, we should be aware of taking care of ourselves all of the time, but this is the time when we typically are the most resilient. So our estrogen is at a high and we're feeling social, we're feeling sexy. This is naturally like when our bodies are wanting to make a baby, so definitely a good time to plan like a special date night, a little bit more intense exercise, and you know that you can go that little bit harder and you are going to bounce back. Okay, so autumn is the infamous PMS stage. So it's kind of like, you can think the leaves are falling off the trees, you're kind of feeling like you're super aware of what's not working in your life, and it's a really amazing time for having clarity. So definitely doing a lot of journaling and paying attention to what shows up. Sometimes you'll notice you'll feel a certain way about something in your life every month. It will come up at that point. So it's really important to listen, but maybe not take action at that time. So take action when you've got a little bit more resilience or you're feeling a little bit less sensitive. There's hidden gems in the autumn phase. It's really good to do exercise to make sure that you're moving that energy through your body, as well as keeping your digestive system flowing and excreting excess hormones. So Claire Baker, my coach, she talks about creating an autumn list. So you can create a little list of the things that you're feeling stuck with, or the things that are not working and you're frustrated, and then when winter comes around again and you have that energetic release and physical release, you can actually let those things go and just sort of open up and see what insights drop in. So if you do have a cycle, I encourage you to check in, think, where am I? So you can count forward from day 1 being when you start to get your period, count forward from there and figure out where you're at in your cycle, and then you can decide how you want to take this information, whether you just want to sort of marinate it on a little bit, or whether you want to jump into taking action with some of the things that I'm going to talk about next. So I'm going to talk about bookends. So this is morning and night routines, and I have a handout that you can download. Essentially, you don't need this. If you don't have a printer, you can just make a list of 6 things you want to do in the AM, 6 things you want to do in the PM. However, it is nice to have it in this format, because then you can see as you go, you can make a little tick next to that particular item. So at the top of your page, you've got cycle seasons. That means at the beginning of that week, or you're just basically checking in, you're becoming aware, okay, this is what I can expect from myself. Of course, sometimes you won't feel that typical energy of summer or spring. Sometimes if you're feeling a little bit depleted, you won't have that natural lift in energy. So use your common sense and always be kind to yourself. When you're in that spring and summer phase, you can kind of push yourself a little bit more. Just gentle nudging in the right direction. So this week I'm in spring, and the things that I'll be doing sort of like in my morning and night routine and on my weekly calendar looks like recording as many videos as I can, really just diving headfirst into work, working with clients one-on-one, as well as going for a walk every day and doing longer yoga sessions. So I use an app called Down Dog, and that's really good because you can basically customize it. So you can say, okay, I want to do yin yoga for 10 minutes with a 10-minute shavasana, the relaxation at the end. So that would be like something in winter, and then you might want to do like a 45-minute Ashtanga sequence if you're sort of in your summer phase. I also use an app called Insight Timer, which is really fantastic for meditation. I just use the timer because it has a nice gong-like sound, so I can time myself to meditate for 15 minutes. We'll be doing a little bit more meal prep than usual in the next 2 weeks, so spring and summer. However, we did have a really big week last week, so we just kind of take that into account as well. The beautiful thing is that you can kind of change it So each week you just sort of write the different things that you're feeling capable of doing. And the idea here is that you're just pushing yourself slightly in the times when you can and you're feeling capable of it. And the times when you're not, then you're really just like putting those support systems in place. So this might be things like, you know, you might be writing things like light some incense and light a candle and dim the lights in the PM, or use lavender oil before bed, or have a bath, or, you know, just like those self-care things so you can kind of remind yourself to do them. And the idea here is not about being perfect, it's just kind of about reminding yourself and setting some structure in place. And it's actually really cool because you can see after the week or whatever, you can see, oh wow, I actually meditated 3 times this week. So the idea is, rather than trying to meditate 7 days a week, and if you do anything less than 7, you're going to beat yourself up. The idea is that you can actually see and appreciate what you are doing. So tell me in the comments what kind of things you like to do in your morning and night routine when you have your period. So all of that self-care stuff, that's what I want to know. So pop that in the comments, and it would be nice to sort of share with everyone and see what kind of rituals people come up with. It's really important here not to get carried away. Don't write huge, massive things. Don't set yourself up to fail. Definitely shrink the change. So say if you're wanting to meditate like 20 minutes every day, just start with 5 minutes a day. It's a lot easier to commit to 5 minutes, and then by the time you're actually sitting on that cushion, it's probably likely that you're going to be able to push that out slowly. But you don't want to overextend yourself, because then it's not going to work, because you won't be able to maintain it, and then you'll flip back to potentially even worse than before that. So this is just like a weekly planner. So the 3 categories I have down the side here is life admin and top me ups and food prep. Start with life admin. So that's like the stuff that you have to do for work and study. So it's kind of pretty simple. So you would write 3 or 4 goals for the week, keeping it simple, not putting too much on your plate. And then, because at the top again we've got season here, so you write your season, and it just means, again, you're checking in with yourself, where you're at, and then you can kind of plan your goals accordingly, plan your week accordingly. So you can write in these little white dots here, you can write the actual date, and then there's a little circle here on each day of the week that you can write what day of your cycle you're on, with day 1 being the first day of your period, and then day 28 being like the last day of your period, assuming you have a 28-day cycle. So up the top it also says weekly mantra. So for me, I just kind of like tune in. I don't think about it too much. I just kind of think, what do I need to remind myself of this week? And I might just write like, what have I got here? Take care of yourself, rest, meditate, don't fluff about. I'll show you what my wall looks like. Look, you're gonna think I'm crazy now. So I'm just a visual person, so I like to kind of stick it all up there, and then I can see it, then I know what the hell I'm doing with my life. Alternatively, if you don't have a space where you can stick all of these handouts up, it's nice just to have like a simple little folder like this, because then if you're sort of traveling around or moving around, you can just have easy access to it. So next to top me ups, I've written social, I've written movement, leisure, and music. So that will depend on your hobbies or what are your priorities at the moment. But it's nice to just kind of remember, just write them next to it, because then each week you can kind of think, okay, what things do I want to make sure happen? Because the thing is, if we don't plan these things, they don't happen. Time is this weird, stretchy, subjective thing, and we very rarely feel like we have enough time. So unless we write it down and schedule it and plan it, it's unlikely that it's going to happen. So it's important to not only plan the life admin stuff, the shit that we gotta do, but it's important to make space for the things that we want to do. So then we've got food prep. So you can watch this video here on easy nutrient dense meal prep if you want to learn how I plan my meals. But essentially every week I'll just write down like maybe 5 things, and then we will do those normally on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So that's everything on the weekly planner. If you have a physical calendar, I just kind of write in a red pen the day of my cycle. Then when I want to make plans, I can quite easily have a look. Alternatively, if you're more of a technology kind of person, then you can use an app like Clue. I know that's a great one. I think it's really important to Don't try to be perfect with this. Honestly, it's an art, not a science, and the great news is you get to practice every month. Alright my lovelies, that has been quite enough talking for the day. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to press the like button and subscribe. And then press the bell so that you don't miss next week's video, which is going to be on some healthy gut healing recipes using natural gelatin. I hope you had some good insights from this video. If you want a copy of those handouts that I mentioned, you can sign up to my mailing list below the video. So in the description there'll be a link, you can click on that and then those will be emailed straight to you. And actually in the future I'm creating a free mini course called How to Find Your Kitchen Flow. So depending on when you're watching this video, by signing up to my mailing list, you'll also have access to those, and those handouts will be in there as well. Alright lovelies, thanks so much for watching and I will catch you in the next video. If you are interested in the idea of meal prepping for your period, I have a video on that, so you can watch that here. And I've also made a video called How to Eat for Your Cycle, where I filmed all of the meals that I ate throughout a week in my summer phase. And I'm talking about the kinds of things that I like to include in general in my diet for cycle health.